Food as medicine is a big topic for us here at Healing Quest.
That's why we're so pleased to have been able to spend some time with Margaret Floyd.
She's an author, a nutritional therapy practitioner, and a certified healing food specialist.
But she says all of those accomplishments probably wouldn't have happened without her own personal experience with food as medicine.
I'd had a chronic skin condition since I was in my teens that was just getting worse and worse and worse into my 20s. And I had tried everything medical. And the creams kept getting stronger, and they would work temporarily, and then they wouldn't work. And I got to a point where, I was just itchy, scratchy head to toe. And I got desperate, and a friend suggested that I look at things more naturally. And so I went to a practitioner, and we completely changed my diet. And within 3 weeks, that chronic skin condition I'd had since my teens went away and has literally never come back. It took me a little while to catch up in terms of making this my choice of career. But I have been working in this field for many years now. I've written a couple of books on the topic, and I love it. If you think about it, every single cell in your body was once food. And that's profound. That means that there is no function or structure in your body that is not directly impacted by what you eat. There's not one health condition out there that does not benefit from an improvement in your diet.
So today, Margaret is going to help us improve our diet and our health by tapping into traditional wisdom.
In fact, we're going to learn about something that may predate fire in terms of cooking.
We're talking about fermenting or culturing our foods to preserve them and to enhance their nutritional value.
We're going to start by making our very own culture starter. And now I do want to say you can buy these commercially, but they're expensive and they're really hard to find. The Nourishing Traditions Cookbook is where I got all of these recipes. And the Nourishing Traditions Cookbook is what launched me on this path of healing foods. All you need, it's very simple. You need a strainer, a bowl of some sort, and you need either a dish towel. I'm using a cloth napkin. If you have cheesecloth, you can use it, but that's kind of an extra thing most people don't have lying around. So I'm just going to show you with a cloth napkin. You're going to line the strainer with this cloth napkin, and then you're going to use yogurt. That's our magic ingredient, and pretty much everyone has yogurt in their fridge. Now we want unflavored yogurt, full fat yogurt. We want it to be organic, very, very important, and just plain old yogurt. Now, don't get Greek yogurt, because Greek yogurt has been whipped, and what I'm about to show you doesn't actually work well with Greek yogurt. And it does help to look on the label and make sure that there's active bacterial cultures in it. Most of them, if you're getting organic, plain whole milk yogurt, you don't have to worry about that, but I just want to put that tip out there, because if there's no active bacterial cultures, then we have nothing to culture. There's no culture to start. So all we do is we just dump this jar of yogurt into this lined strainer. And what's going to happen, takes a couple of minutes to start, but what's going to happen is, when you take some yogurt, you take your jar of yogurt out of the fridge, you have a serving, you put it back, and you go back later, and that clear liquid that kind of settles on the top of the yogurt. Well, that's what we call whey. And whey is our culture starter. So what you would do is you would take this lined strainer on top of the bowl and just set it out on your counter at room temperature. Don't pop it back in the fridge. Let it stay out at room temperature and just leave it out for the day. You can do it before you go to bed, and it's done in the morning. You can do it in the morning. It's done by the time you come home from work. So that's as much time as it takes. So what happens then if you leave the yogurt in the napkin? What happens is you get this nice whey, which is this kind of yellowy liquid at the bottom. And this you can save in your fridge. I just keep it in a little jar like this. You can keep it in your fridge for literally months. And then what we're left over is, it doesn't look so pretty when you just left it, but it's basically cream cheese. Oh. And so what I like to do is take this and just mix it with maybe a little bit of sea salt. You can get creative, maybe throw in a little dill or some basil or some sun-dried tomatoes, and just kind of whip it up a little bit with your fork, and you end up with some really yummy cream cheese, which you can eat in a whole bunch of different ways. The second thing I'm going to show you is how to use that whey that we just made as a way to preserve your food. Imagine ketchup with probiotics as opposed to ketchup loaded with high fructose corn syrup and all sorts of other nasty chemicals. So in this example, I'm going to show you salsa. So I already made this salsa, but you can take any homemade salsa recipe. There's a great one in Nourishing Traditions. And you make your salsa or any other condiment, and then all you do is you add some whey. So I'm just going to add a couple of spoonfuls of the whey. I'm going to give it a nice stir. And then you want to make sure, this is a key thing, you want to make sure that there's always about an inch between the top of the condiment and the top of your jar, because this, the fermentation process, it can grow, and you don't want it leaking out of your jar. So then you take a lid, you seal it on nice and tightly, and then you just leave this out on your counter. Again, you want to leave it not in the refrigerator because that stops the culturing process. So at room temperature. For a salsa, I would leave it out for 2 days and then put it in your fridge. And now this salsa that would have gone bad within a week or two will now last you for months. So it's a great way to leverage the amount of time that you put into actually making something.
So Margaret, one of my favorite parts of this job, and the reason actually I insisted on doing this segment instead of Judy, is I get to taste things. So
excellent.
Can we have a taste?
We can. So we started off with the whey and the cream cheese. And so one of my favorite ways of eating cream cheese is in celery. It's the way my mom used to make it for me when I was a kid. So please.
Thank you very much. Let me just, and now this is all healthy.
All healthy.
Oh, wow. I've obviously never had it made this way. This is better than I've ever had it. So.
Excellent.
I'm going to set this aside and have it later.
And then, well, let's go into the salsa. So here's a chip. Let's try that salsa and see how it compares to your normal salsa.
Oh, boy. I may need to have a bigger sample.
Just to make sure.
Just one more, just to make sure. Wow.
Now, does it taste fermented? Like, does it taste funky?
No. And what's
Right.
good, one things about salsa that I've always noticed is it doesn't last very long in the refrigerator.
No.
I mean, in a couple of days, it starts to get that kind of bitter, it's turning.
It is turning.
So it's amazing if this would last
Months.
How long? Oh,
Months.
gosh. Great.
It probably won't last that long.
Won't last that long with me around. Margaret also showed me how to make delicious sauerkraut with natural fermentation, and we'll have that for you in next week's show.
With a name like Walking Horse, I would think you already knew a lot about sauerkraut.
You'd think so, but you'd be wrong. Actually, it was part of my diet growing up, but I really didn't like sauerkraut all that much. Margaret's, however, very different, much better. Don't miss next week.
And as always, if you'd like more information on Margaret, her books, or the Nourishing Tradition cookbook that she mentioned, we have the links on the Healing Quest website.